Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday, so that means it's time for the new episode of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Jeff?
Pretty good, man. How about you?
It's going well. I'm in the middle of a very eventful week here. We can get into that as we go on, but when we talk about things we've checked out. But yeah, things are going good.
Glad to hear it, man.
As you all know, before we get going, I'd like to get this out there that once you're finished with this episode, you need to go and check out the rest of the podcasting Illuminati. Of course, I'm talking about the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. Kicking the week off, we have Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. He interviews filmmakers, actors, anyone involved in the production of fine horror films. Tuesdays, Jackie Smith brings you Into the Necrosphere, the premier metal extreme music podcast on the internet. Wednesday, my flagship podcast, Everything Went Black, hits, and you can find a veritable potpourri of subjects and guests on that show. It's a crazy woman's quilt of subjects, very esoteric, down to just people rolling around on mats, learning how to choke each other out, that kind of stuff. Thursday, Thursdays, of course, is Necro Thursday, which is you're listening to the show right now. Friday brings us Break the Apocalypse, which is Mike Scandato's brother, John Draper. I'll let that set for a second. Saturday, take the day off, go out, touch the grass. We're getting into the spooky season, so enjoy the fall coloration. Because on Sunday, Carl Hikara brings you Soul Knocks for all things weird, esoteric, and sublime. Now, lurking out in the shadows, in the dim recesses, is Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by Cheyenne of the fine band Trivax. Cheyenne is too free of a spirit to stick to a regular schedule like us Philistines have to. So his show comes when it hits you like a ton of bricks. And there you go, man. That's the world.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your True Detective episode on Everything Went Black. I feel like you've been talking about that for like a year now.
Oh, probably longer, actually. I think that's always been something that Ralph and I have talked about doing. And it's like a two-parter. There's one that's on the regular Everything Went Black stream. And we run down the plot of the season. We interject our thoughts, things like that. And then part two is on the Patreon only platform, and that has to do more with the philosophy and more of the literary elements of the storyline. So we talk about, Robert Chambers, Thomas Ligotti,
Right.
like all those connections with weird fiction. We pose the question: is True Detective actually part of the Robert Chambers Yellow King mythos? So that's the kind of stuff
the
we talk
episode
about.
That's the episode I'm really looking forward to too. So I'm gonna have to join the Patreon. I feel kind of bad that I haven't.
Well, I don't want this to turn into an ad for Everything Went Black, but yeah, if you do want to join the Everything Went Black Patreon, it's $1 a month. So there you go.
Oh, that's a little steep for my pockets.
So what have you been checking out, Jeff?
Now, I've kind of continued with that Western kick I was on the last time we talked. So a couple things, not horror, but I did watch Unforgiven for the first time in about, 15 years. Not much more you can add to that. It's one of the best Westerns ever made. I think it is a movie responsible for sort of reinventing the Western, wouldn't you say?
I could see that. It definitely reinvented that character for sure.
Yeah. And a movie I don't think that gets the credit it deserves. It's a movie called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford from the Australian director Andrew Dominic. Came out in 2007. I think between 5 and 8 was like another golden age of Hollywood where there was just great movies after great movies getting released. And this movie sort of got overlooked a little. I don't think it made much of a dent, but man, if I'm talking like my favorite films of all time, the Jesse James movie is in my top 5.
That's awesome, man. That's that was I did enjoy that movie when it came out. I saw it back in the day.
Yeah, really good, really atmospheric, a little different for a Western. It has like more of the tone of like a Terrence Malick movie or something. Great score by Nick Cave, who I'm a big fan of Nick Cave.
Yeah, he's on tour, and I haven't secured my tickets yet, but I'm definitely planning to go to one of the New York area shows. Definitely.
Nice, nice. He's not coming here, I believe. And sort of not really a Western. I watched The Departed. I know it's a controversial opinion. I think it's Martin Scorsese's best movie.
It's definitely in the top 5, in my opinion. I think so.
Yeah, I love Boston crime movies, although most of this movie was filmed in New York, not Boston. I can look past that. But such a good movie. And from watching all these Westerns too, it kind of, I don't know, it didn't feel like that much of a departure. Sort of like the movie we're about to discuss.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah.
What about you, man? What have you been checking out?
Well, I checked out The Nun 2 the other night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My girlfriend is a big fan of that whole franchise, so it was
The
her
Conjuring franchise?
Yeah, it was her birthday, so we went out for the movies and checked it out. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it looks good. It was a good night out. It was fun, and that's about really all I have to say about it.
Okay, I haven't seen the Nun movies. I not like you said it was part 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought there was like 5 of those for some reason.
But it also connects into the Conjuring universe, so it's part of that whole.
Right. Yeah, not the biggest fan of those films, but some of them are okay.
I checked out this. I was listening to or watching a YouTube channel, and this guy talked about a movie called the Houses October Built, and actually found footage. It's about a group of people that are trying to document haunts. You know what I mean? Like extreme haunts. You know what I'm talking about? Where they have these like experiential things where people dress up and murder or try to scare you, like that kind of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and of course, the people that get on their radar are the real deal. They're not playing around. You know what I mean? So it's like a movie like that. It's pretty good.
Okay.
It's on Tubi if you want to check it out. It's out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Tons of shows, actually. Last weekend, to celebrate my girlfriend's birthday, we went down to Atlantic City and went to the Danzig show at the Ovation Arena. It was pretty awesome. And
what was the set list like? I'm curious. Did he mostly old stuff?
Yeah,
or
It was like it was the hits from like the first album. It was like the celebration of the 30th anniversary, I guess, of the first Danzig record.
Oh, okay. This is interesting because I just posted on Instagram. It was my birthday the other day, and I was listening to the first 2 Danzig records for some reason. I don't know. It seemed like a birthday thing to do. And I mentioned that on Instagram. I was like, okay. I can't decide which one I like more, 1 or 2. And I got a lot of replies and pretty evenly split between 1 and 2. But a lot of people were like, hey, 3 and 4, show some love to 3 and 4. Even our co-host, Mike Scandata, was like, you got to check out Danzig 4.
Yeah, the first 4 are classics. You know what I mean? Because you still have that lineup with Eerie Von, John Christ, and Chuck Biscuits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that to me, that's Danzig. I mean, I know I celebrated his entire catalog. You know what I mean? I'm just a fan of all of his stuff anyway.
Sure.
I'm a mark for Danzig. You know what I mean?
A stan.
But yeah, 3 and 4, I fuck with 3 and 4. You know, How the
I
Gods
kind of
Kill.
wrote those off a long time ago.
No,
Like,
no,
I
no,
know.
no, no. They're great, man. It's like Sistinus is a song that's on How the Gods Kill, and that's like such a great song.
My memory, like it's been a good, I don't know, 20 years since I heard three or four, but my memory is that they each had a couple good songs on it, and that's it. But I do need to give them. I have to make a drive today, and I'll probably give both of them a listen. I know three had a big hit, that "Dirty Black Summer" song.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, but one and two are just solid throughout. Like both of those records are just like heavy hitters all through.
flat. Yeah, two is really, I think, edges out one a little bit darker. I like that seedy, shitty kind of bluesy feel that it has.
Two has Under Her Black Wings, which is
Mm.
probably one of my top three favorite Danzig tracks. So yeah, I like that record a lot.
Nice. Yeah. Glad he's out there still doing it. I mean, he's got to be pushing 70 at this point.
Saw Danzig twice this year. Saw him in the Misfits and saw him as Danzig. It was great.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Behemoth also played, and Twin Temple, which interesting. You know, my lady's a huge fan of theirs, but I thought they were cool. Their thing was a little corny to me. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. What's their thing?
Yeah, they're like satanic but like not in like a cool, like obscure way, like satanic in this kind of like black craft cult sort of way, you know?
Oh, okay. Like they're not evil. They're cheevil.
Yeah, they're cheevil, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, they played great. Music's cool, you know?
Yeah.
I listened to them through osmosis, you know, but the lady who sings for them's got a great voice. The songs are, you know, and I'm also a mark kind of for that like rockabilly, like doo-wop kind of stuff, you know.
Interesting.
I like a lot of music like that. Like, for example, when Danzig dips into that, you know, that croony like Roy Orbison kind of stuff. That really gets me. That's the kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. You're not talking about like the rockabilly like stuff like I don't know, like
No, you mean
Rocket
like
from the
like
Crypt.
no. I'm against that kind of stuff. Actually,
I
like,
actually really like that band.
no, Rocket from the Crypt, the band is cool, but I'm talking about grown men pretending it's 1955, you know, wearing creepers and pompadours and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was me in high school.
Yeah, I mean, I'm against that stuff. You know what I'm trying to say?
Sure. Yeah. That'd be funny the next time I saw you at Creepers, huh?
Nah, that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I know.
You know, maybe a cowboy shirt. We'll see.
Okay.
I was gifted a cowboy shirt by my buddy Cam on Saturday night while we were watching Danzig.
That's pretty odd. Like I at first when you said cow, I thought you were talking about the football team.
No. Oh, no, not that.
Yeah.
Godflesh played the other night, so we shot down to Philly, got there just to see them, and went back to Jersey. Had a late night and an early morning.
Nice.
And then
How was
tomorrow,
Godflesh?
Oh, Godflesh were crushing. They were like probably one of the top 3 or 4 times I've seen them. They sounded great, I thought.
Ah, man, yeah. I like that new record.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, Purge is good. I like it. I like their last 2 albums quite a bit, actually.
Me too. I thought the last one, Post Self, was really kind of a curveball for Godflesh. Really dark and experimental and weird.
Yeah, when they came to the States, we supported them on the New York show. I remember it was pretty cool getting to see that, like, play live. You know, see it live.
Absolutely.
And then Saturday we're going back to Philly to check out this band called Ash Code. They're playing down at Kung Fu Necktie, this like small venue down there.
I keep hearing about that place. I don't think I've ever played there.
It's all right, you know. It's like,
hey, it's Philly.
Yeah, it is what it is. Kung Fu Necktie. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna be fun. Ash Code is a band that Tina, my girlfriend, turned me on to. They're like, post-punk, dark wave, just, that kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah, I like that stuff.
Yeah, it's like a, nice little weekend, nice little weekend.
Yeah, I got a nice, that's cool. I'm not doing shit.
But so before we get rolling too far, let's get into the
Necromaniacs.
We got one voicemail.
This is Jason.
And if you want to call us and leave us a voicemail and tell us
thank you for
your deep dark secrets or make movie recommendations or anything like that, you can hit us at 908
I always love your movie selections.
0782. That's
always
908
always make me think about what I watch again, in the evenings.
So this week, we got a call.
Just wanted to maybe give you guys a few selections for future viewing.
Necromaniacs guy.
Finally got around to watching this is Jason, the last voyage of the Demeter. Wasn't too bad.
Wanted to say
Actually, really enjoyed it.
Podcast always makes my
wish it had practical effects instead of CGI, but I think that's just how it goes these days. I always love your movie selection. Take it as it is. Still, I don't know, a good solid B+.
Rethink about
And then a recommendation from a friend of mine
was an old 70s
just wanted to maybe give you guys a few
video
selections
nasty
for
Island of
future
Death.
viewing.
Like a Greek
finally got
film,
around to watching
filmed in Greece.
The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Wasn't too bad. Lots of sadism. Actually, really enjoyed it. Murder,
it had
practical effects
torture,
CGI, but I think that's just kind of how it goes these days. Just altogether, take it as it is. Lives up to the main video. I don't know, a good solid. It's great. I loved it. And then I've never heard of it before. I don't know. Apparently, it's an old 70s than I thought it was. Exploitation. It's a great film. Video nasty. If you haven't, Island of Death. Shot. It's like a Greek film, right smack dab in the middle of the 70s. So lots seems like it might be up your alley. Lots of sadism. Keep up the good work. Can't wait for next week's episode. Murder, bestiality, torture, rape. Just altogether lives up to the name Video Nasty. It's great. I loved it. I'd never heard of it before. I don't know. Apparently, it's a lot bigger than I thought it was, but it's a great film. I don't know if you've seen it or not. If you haven't, it might be worth a shot. I don't know. It's right smack dab in the middle of the 70s, so seems like it might be up your alley. Anyway, keep up the good work. Can't wait for next week's episode. Thank you. Bye.
All right, Jeff. So did you, have you checked out Island of Death? Have you heard of that one?
No, I don't even think I've heard it. He said it was a Greek horror film, and I'm kind of racking my brain to have I seen any Greek horror films? I don't think I have.
Yeah, I'd have to check my my notes to see if I'd ever seen anything made in Greece. I'm sure I have, maybe. Some films. I have only heard of this film because I recently watched something about video nasties. And this sounds, according to what he says, it's one of the video nasties, and one of those things that the title flips by you, but you don't know much about it, and it sounds super extreme, it sounds like real intense. And after I listened to the voicemail, I actually ordered the Blu-ray, so it should be showing up in the next couple of days. So I'll check it out.
Oh, nice. And you saw the other film you mentioned, the Voyage movie. Yeah,
the Demeter. Yeah, that saw that in the theater, and I thought it was actually I'm in line with him. It's a B plus, not a home run, not an A, but it was like cool to see a different take on on the vampire genre. It's not just like the greatness of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Stands alone. Like that to me is like the modern version of Dracula, and you don't have to go back and play around with that book anymore. Even though I know the Demeter is like chapter 7 of the Dracula novel based on that, it doesn't really follow. I mean, that's only like a handful of pages in the book. It's not something where there's like all these characters involved. So the movie expands on that and creates its own world building thing going on, and I think it's kind of cool. And the Dracula looks more like Orlok from Nosferatu than Dracula that you think of with a mustache and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of mixed things about it. I talked to some, like, I think the best I heard was that it's okay, and so there are other people I talked to flat out didn't like it, but I'll get to it eventually.
It's like the God Hates Us All in the Slayer catalog. You know what I mean? It's like God Hates Us All is I think a good record, but it doesn't really hold up to like South of Heaven or Rain and Blood or Hell Awaits or something like that. This is like it's good. It's not great though. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, is that Slayer's new metal record? I know they had like a new metal one somewhere in their catalog.
That's Diabolos in Musica.
Ah, okay, yeah. That's it. Yeah, I have to confess, I don't really know much about Slayer.
I know that's not your thing, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay.
When there was the anniversary for Diabolos in Musica, I wrote a piece for Revolver, and you can find that online somewhere. And I actually give it props. I actually have the unpopular opinion of that record being worth checking out.
I remember driving to cable practice with the guitar player at the time, Matt Becker. I think it was cable practice. Anyway, and hearing it and being like, oh, this isn't terrible. Little new metally. That's kind of what I thought, but I think that was the one and only time I heard that record.
Yeah, I saw them on that tour, and they didn't play much off of that record. Actually, they played mostly like the hits.
That's so funny when bands put out a new record and tour on it, and they play like one or two songs.
Yeah, well, that's bands that have been around for that long. The '90s was when Slayer was like becoming like a legacy band. You know what I mean? They had like they had their back catalog, the records they put out in the '80s. Up until Seasons in the Abyss, and that became their set list. Basically, was those tracks, and then maybe put a new song in here and there. That kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So onward. So
yes.
this week, this Necro Thursday, we're covering a horror adjacent film.
Yes.
By David Cronenberg called History of Violence. And released May 16th, 2005, directed by David Cronenberg, screenplay by Josh Olson. And it was based on the graphic novel, which I read back in the day, that came out in the 90s at some point. It was a graphic novel by John Wagner and Vince Locke. Now, Vince Locke, you'll know him, any comic book guys out there, he's the creator of Deadworld, which was like I always put Deadworld and Faust kind of together as solid, like extreme horror comics from like back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And John Wagner was a British comic graphic artist guy, graphic novel writer. And he did a lot of stuff with like the 2000 AD crew, like Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog, like that kind of stuff. He had a short story called Darky's Mob. So you can, extrapolate like what you want out of that title. He also worked on the Batman Judge Dredd team up, which is outstanding. It's two characters that really need to be, teaming up. So that was interesting. But yeah,
I didn't even
trade,
know that existed.
Yeah, you read the trade, right?
History of Violence?
Yeah.
I read this as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
I ordered it on I think I was living in New York at the time. When I heard this was going to be Cronenberg's new movie and it was based on a graphic novel, that's when I went out and tried to find it. And really, really interesting reading it. I was like, Cronenberg's doing this, huh? Interesting. Like, I'm curious to see what he does with it, because it doesn't scream David Cronenberg when you read it, does it?
No, not at all. Not at all. And, I judged dreaded I enjoyed the trade, the graphic novel on its own, because I read it. And I remember I was still working at the Newbury Comics warehouse, and they had the
Oh wow.
employee discount. So this thing came out, and I was like, oh yeah, fucking history of violence. Yeah, I gotta watch, I gotta read this. So, and I was like, cool. I liked Vince Locke. I liked Deadworld. I was into that whole aesthetic at the time, and thought it was really cool. But then I also was surprised that Cronenberg was picking this, or was picked to work on a film version of this, a film adaptation.
Yeah, apparently he didn't know it was a graphic novel when he decided to direct this.
Interesting. I mean, I can see that. I can see the screenwriter doing all the lifting when it comes to reading the graphic novel and absorbing the material, and then just having a script, and then presenting it to Cronenberg and be like, all right, cool, here's the script, and Cronenberg just doing his thing.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the things I thought Cronenberg would latch onto in the comic book are not in the film at all.
Explain.
Well, okay. The Ed Harris character carries a finger around in a little jar around his neck, the finger of Joey, and let's see, the Richie character is quite different in the comic book too. We'll probably get into it later.
Yeah. Okay.
But those are things I was like, okay, I can see Cronenberg being excited about this. But this was an interesting time in Cronenberg's film career. This was probably like his first mainstream studio movie in quite a while.
There was a lot of surprises with this one because to me it felt like a huge departure from what I'd known him for, and
yes and no, yeah. Totally.
Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting, and I haven't reread the trade since, a lot of my books are still packed away right now. I know I'm taking a long time moving in, but yeah, that's somewhere in a box in my living room right now.
I just reread it in preparation for this.
All right, so it's 96 minutes long. Okay, great cast, by the way, in this.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, we got Viggo Mortensen playing a dual role as Joey Cusack and Tom Stahl. All right, Maria Bello as his wife Edie. Now, whatever happened to her?
It's funny. I just have this conversation with my girlfriend. I remember she was on some NBC show playing like a detective who wore a pork pie hat. For some reason,
God.
Like the hat was like a big part of the show. I don't know, but everyone seemed to be talking about it. That's the last thing I remember seeing her in.
Yeah, she had like a pretty prolific career in the late 90s, into the 2000s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was nominated for a Best Supporting Actress for this film too.
Okay. William Hurt as Richie Cusack. The incredible Ed Harris as Carl Fogarty. And then there's some other mentions here too. There's the two kids, the Stahl kids. We have Aston Holmes as Jack and Heidi Hayes as Sarah. And I want to mention that the awesome Stephen McHattie has a small role in the beginning of this film as Leland Jones. Yeah.
Yes, and his sidekick in the film, Greg Brick or something. Another guy who pops up here and there playing complete fucking creeps.
Yeah, I recognize that dude, but I couldn't place where I knew him from.
Me, same thing. Like I mistake him for this other guy. I can't remember his name either, but I always got the two of them confused. I did want to point out something I found interesting. Stephen McHattie's character's name is Leland.
Yeah.
And the other guy's character's name is Orser. And that has to be a nod to the actor Leland Orser, who was in the film Seven. He's the guy who was freaking out at the police station.
Yeah.
He's that actor. Every time you see him, he's freaking out. I don't know. I thought that was a little. That must be like the writer knows him or is a fan of him. I don't know. That seems like it couldn't have been an accident.
Probably not. Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So the movie starts out with these two guys, McHattie and the dude who I know from other movies, and I can't remember his name. That guy.
Yeah.
They're in some like seedy roadside motel, It's morning. Do you have the impression that they did something really, really evil, really bad, really heavy? And they look tired. They come out to their car, and McHattie goes in to sort out the bill, right? Or so you think. And when he comes back out, and the other guy is like, they have a discussion about whether or not they have water. So the other guy goes in to the office to fill up his jug of water, and the entire staff that's manning the checkout desk has been murdered.
Right.
And that's our introduction to this film. So these guys,
yeah.
What in the film? Let's talk about the film. What do you think? What was their deal? Like, were they pulling off some kind of caper, or were they just like Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole, like on a killing spree? Like, what's your take on that?
I was curious about that myself, and I own the DVD for this movie, and I went and watched the extras afterwards. Turns out the two actors who played these roles created an entire backstory for these guys.
Interesting.
So according to Stephen McHattie, Leland, Orser is his nephew, and Leland just got out of prison, and he's showing his nephew the ropes. He's showing him how the world really is. So they're going on this road trip. And that's the backstory the two actors came up with. But that's not shown in the movie. You just see these two guys who just seem to be traveling across the country, drifting, committing crimes, committing murder. They seem to be people who enjoy doing this kind of thing. They don't have to kill the people at the hotel, but they do.
That's interesting, man. Because like part of me was like, I think initially, I felt like they might have been connected to the crime family out of Philly. Now, before we get into what that's all about, Ed Harris is like a henchman for a crime family based out in Philly, and the next scenes will explain why that's important. I thought these guys were on, working involved somehow in organized crime. Right? But that doesn't really work either because of the murder that goes down, in the office there. Because like generally guys who are involved in organized crime want to draw as little like attention to themselves as possible.
Yeah. I like I said, like I just thought they were drifter scumbag, like kind of guys. I want to point out that this opening scene was interesting for a few reasons. One, it's one take until Orser walks into the hotel. It's all one take.
Yeah, I love that.
Me too, man. I'm a sucker for a good long take. Also, the credits roll out over this take, which is something you don't see a lot of anymore. Like the credits over the movie. Credits nowadays usually get their own sort of thing, before the movie. And Cronenberg is another guy. He kind of always used the opening credits to, as he says, set the tone for the movie. And I thought this is just a perfect opening. No score, one long take, tiny text saying, the cast and crew. I don't know. It always struck me as interesting choice. But yeah, again, Orser goes in, sees all these dead people, and a little girl comes out. And he shoots her, he kills her, and then it cuts to the Stahl family, where the little girl is having a nightmare about monsters. Viggo Mortensen says, "Well, monsters aren't real," but we just saw that monsters are very much real.
Yeah, the monsters of the flesh and blood temporal world, you know what I mean, are definitely real. These are like these two guys that just did this crime are like boogeymen, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't know much about them. We don't know really their motives or anything like that. They are indeed just monsters.
So we get an introduction to the family, the Stahl family, and we got Viggo Mortensen plays Tom Stahl, which we later just find out that's not actually who he is. And
right.
They got Maria Bello, his wife, and they got the two kids, Jack and Sarah. And he's an owner of a diner. Okay, and through various scenes, we get to see that Jack is kind of like an odd kid, you know, gets picked on, probably would be like into bands like Bauhaus and Joy Division and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does have a cool girlfriend though, or whatever, you know, and but he's like an
Yeah,
outsider.
she seems like she likes Nick Cave.
Yeah, his girlfriend probably would have been into like Nick Cave and that kind of thing. And so it's cool, you know. But he's not. He's playing sports. That's not really his thing, you know. He gets picked on by these bullies, that sort of stuff. So
Right.
it's nighttime, and the bully spots Jack and his lady friend, and you know, and then they cut to them peeling out and almost hitting a pickup truck, okay, containing our two band of scumbags. Now, let's make one note. In the beginning of the film, they were not driving a pickup truck.
That's right. Oh, good catch. Yeah.
So you just through that, you start realizing like, all right, you know, they probably ran out of gas with the other car, and they probably murdered the people who had the pickup and then took it. You know what I mean? Now they're traveling.
Yeah. I didn't even fucking realize that. That's nice. Yeah. And that's a little detail that tells you so much about these guys.
Yeah. So yeah, and what I thought was an interesting moment here too was you get this like would-be tough guy, you know, young kid, bully, narrowly almost hits these two monster guys, these two boogeymen, you know, nighttime guys. And they're just completely unfazed by it. They kind of look through him with this cold steel gaze.
Yeah.
And just totally unnerves him. They didn't say a word. They didn't even barely moved. They just stared right through this kid, and then the kid just like, you know, flipped them off and then took off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he rattled the kid too, because the guy's like, "Who the fuck was that?" And the bully goes, "I don't know. I don't want to know."
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like you just there's a look to that, and this hard look to him, and perfect casting, by the way, of Stephen McAdie. Like that guy just plays, he just has that look, that villainous look.
He's great, man. I love seeing him in movies. I wish that, you know, he would be in more American films. I think he's Canadian, right?
He is Canadian, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of actors in this are Canadian. As
Right.
This was filmed in Canada, which kind of surprised me. They did a very good job of making it look like small town America.
Cronenberg's Canadian.
Yes, very. Another interesting thing about this scene is, you know, how old-fashioned it felt. Like up until like, you know, the time, like you get this very American idyllic sort of feel to it. You know, it's a Saturday night and kids are cruising the street wearing their varsity jerseys or jackets. It felt like something more out of like the 50s, not 2005, which I assume this movie takes place in the year that it came out.
Yeah, because there's a scene later on where Viggo Mortensen has a mobile phone.
Yes.
So it's definitely not like the 80s or even the 90s necessarily, because not too many people had mobiles in the 90s.
Right, yeah. I just thought that was an interesting choice, you know, to have this sort of like, almost like 50s-ish feel to what people are doing on a Saturday night.
It almost has like a Stephen King kind of thing going on with it, you know?
I thought the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
So these two guys roll up to Stall's Diner, and it's just about closing time at the Stall Diner, right? And they sit down, they want coffee and pie, and Viggo's like, "Hey, sorry fellas, we're closing up here." And of course, things go south from that moment on, because those guys, that is exactly what they don't want to hear from him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they were there to pull the job, right? They weren't just getting coffee.
They were
I think that was their plan.
Yeah, because they were commenting on how they were broke, you know, and so let's rob this diner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're expecting, like, they keep saying this, "I'm tired of these fucking podunk towns" and all this stuff. So they just think this is going to be an easy cash grab. And I fucking love this scene, man. Again, the little details, like when Orser, the kid, is like kind of holding the waitress, against a wall, and he, like, wipes his hand across her chest. Like, it's such a scummy fucking thing.
Yeah, it's real sketchy. And so throughout this whole thing, Tom, we're going to call him Tom for this point, he's got this like gee whiz, golly gee like vibe. You know what I mean? Very middle American, very unassuming. He's like, oh, okay, sir. You're welcome to whatever's in the cash register. And that kind of thing. But once things start getting violent, like where there's like peril, where there's possibility of like a sexual assault, that's when the man of action comes out in Stahl, and he takes control of the situation and dispatches Orser and Leland.
Yeah, and quite brutally, Orser gets off kind of easy. He just gets shot. Leland gets his head smashed with a coffee pot and then shot through the head. And, this is where, like, the Cronenberg-ness of it comes out. There's a real emphasis on the aftermath of this violence in this movie. You get a shot of Leland just sort of gasping his last few breaths, and see the bullet went through the top of his head and out of his jaw. It's pretty graphic.
Yeah, there's like these lingering shots that are just like a few seconds too long for you to take in like the carnage.
Right. Yeah, and of course during this scuffle, Tom gets a knife in the foot and goes to the hospital, and when he gets out, he's a hero.
All over the local news, calling him a hero. He's written up in the paper, that kind of thing. A lot of, as we will find out, unwanted attention is being put on him.
Yeah, and he seems to know this. He's very like shunning of the reporters. Doesn't want to be in the spotlight at all.
Yeah,
because I think in the back of his head, he knows that maybe some people are still looking for him.
Right. So, of course, in a parallel scene, and I see this, Ed Harris, his character Carl, shows up in the diner. He's wearing these sunglasses. He's got a suit. He looks very out of place with the salt of the earth patrons of the diner. And he's got these two other city slickers with him too. And so they sit down, and this is when like the kind of, the whole like drama starts erupting with actually who Tom Stahl really is and what his past was and all that kind of stuff. And this like little game goes on between Carl and Tom, and it's actually pretty amusing.
It's very, Ed Harris is so good in this role. I know William Hurt got nominated for an Oscar for this, but I think Ed Harris was overlooked. He plays menacing so well, just in his body language and the way he talks. Like, he sits down at the diner, at the, right at the counter, and it's like, oh, you're the hero. He's just clearly antagonistic from the moment you see him, even before he takes off his sunglasses to show his deformed eye.
Yeah.
This guy is just so menacing. And, and he's got these two lackeys with him who are like, hey, Mr. Fogarty just wants to make a little conversation, The
sickest thing is like wearing your sunglasses inside. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it's so sick to wear like sunglasses at like a diner like counter like that,
Yeah, exactly. And just I love how he just so subtly sneaks in like, oh, you're the hero, aren't you, Joey?
He's like, oh, it's pretty good coffee. We don't get it's better than we get down in Philly, right, Joey?
Yeah.
Like, oh, gee whiz, sir. Is that Pennsylvania? It's like,
yeah, is that in Pennsylvania? Like,
So awesome, man.
Yeah, it's like, okay, he knows the jig is up, but like I like that Tom thinks he can talk his way out of this, and maybe they don't remember, and it's really never. Did it ever specify how long he had been, in Indiana, and how long has he been Tom?
Well, I would have to say as long as the age of those kids, no?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, maybe
so he's
longer.
Been there for a while. Like you figure that one kid, Jack, is like what, maybe 16,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then this duration also sort of gets reinforced as we find out that Tom isn't who he says he is. He actually is Joey, and he has a brother, Richie, played by William Hurt, and he's involved in organized crime in Philadelphia. And in that period of time when Richie is gone, his brother has risen to the high ranks within this organization. So that conceivably can take place over a period of 16 years or something like that.
Yeah, and in the comic it was 20 years, and one of the bigger differences, I think, Tom in the comic book is probably in his 30s or whatever. He was just a kid when he ran afoul of the mob.
Right.
But Viggo Mortensen's, I would say, probably like in his mid 40s in this, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, that dude is like ages, like, he's ageless kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Handsome motherfucker though, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, good looking dude. Yeah. But yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Like, they want him to know that they found him, and no one knows Vigo is this other guy. So he's really, really trying to just, okay, maybe if I keep up this ruse, they'll just go away, which is crazy because he knows these people are never gonna fucking go away.
Yeah. So of course they know who he is. They still linger in the town. They're menacing him. They've got some score to settle. They wanted to go back to Philly, and what would be the most logical means to do that? They threaten his family, right?
Right. And I got to point out though, that one of the more interesting with things is the effects, the aftermath of violence in this movie. Even after Tom kills those two guys, what the effect it has on his son. You see that scene of his son being bullied, and then after Tom kills those two people, there's a change in Jack, his son. The bully confronts him, and he beats the shit out of him. like Jack beats the shit out of the bully.
I found that interesting too, because it's physical confrontation like that is not something like how to do stuff like that is not necessarily a like a intuitive thing, like you have to have trained somehow in fighting to do what he did to those guys. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And I thought it's not just like, I have like the gusto to beat up these two guys now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't, so I thought that was interesting. It's definitely some license though, taken with reality about the effects of violence on people though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole feel of this movie is a little odd. It takes place in the real world, but it almost feels like an alien's observation of human life. You know what I mean? Like, things are just skewed just a little to the fact where the tone of the movie is a little odd.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's just me.
Well, it's like all of Cronenberg's films are like that, really.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it feels like an alien came to Earth and observed people in a small town for like a month, and it's like, okay, I got this. And that just, like you just said, like that kind of like adds to just the overall strangeness, the strange tone of this. Even when the reporter shows up on Tom Stahl's lawn, like it's just weird. Like they're asking questions and behaving the way like a reporter wouldn't. Like, hey, how'd you feel after you shot those people? And then they put a microphone in his face. I feel like that wouldn't really happen, at least not like that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But, yeah, it just contributes to the strangeness of this film, like the sex scene between Tom and Edie before he kills those two men in the diner. I feel like it's a very Cronenberg thing to show character development through sex scenes, and how they, like just their interactions between the parents. It's playful. She's dressed up like a cheerleader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost feel in any other movie it'd feel out of place, but not in a David Cronenberg movie.
Where would she get a cheerleader uniform that would fit her? Is what I want to know.
I took it as she was a cheerleader in high school or something, and she still has it. That would be or maybe they went to some sex shop. They drove to the big town next door and went to the Hustler store
to Racine, Wisconsin, to pick up some stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like there's that, what is that, I-94 that goes across the Midwest?
Yeah.
And as you know, when you hit that part of the country, it's like that's where porn, or people who end up in porn, are all from there, and they love pornography in that part of the country. Like that's the Lion's Den, like all these like places that you can rent adult films and masturbate and buy like butt plugs and things like that are all like along the highway. And
really?
Don't. Yeah, you've seen these, right? I mean, I'm not saying I've gone into any of these places, but like I've driven by them and made comment on it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I usually like you see those that like that they're. God, yeah. I don't think I mean, I've seen them obviously. I don't remember ever just driving on a highway and seeing one though.
Yeah, maybe the back in the day, not so much these days, but back in the 90s and the early aughts, I felt like a large portion of our tour schedule was in the Midwest, and that's probably why, we would, the deal. Every few months, you're back on the road. You're driving the same highways over and over again, and you see the same shit, and I get to know that run as like the porno run, where there's like places to buy like, adult material and things like that,
Yeah. Okay. So we'll assume she got it there.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
Or like I said, she was a cheerleader in high school, because that makes sense. She was probably the popular girl.
Yeah.
In high school, now she's I guess she's a lawyer, because after her son Jack beats the shit out of the bully, and Tom Stahl says they're gonna sue us, and he goes, "Oh, Mom will take the case."
Yeah. So she's an attorney.
And that's a great scene too, when Tom again doing this G shucks thing. He's like, "Hey, smart Alec, we don't solve our problems with violence. We don't hit people." And the son says, "No, we shoot people," and then slap. Yep. Tom hits his kid. That was a little on the nose, but whatever.
But also some foreshadowing too, because of course,
yes,
as the bad guys led by Ed Harris descend upon the Stahl family, it looks like they got the upper hand on old Tom, right?
Yes.
So who is the guy to save the day but Jack with a shotgun?
Yes, that's right. Jack saves his dad. Well, we should point out that the Fogarty and his guys have kidnapped Jack to coerce Tom to go back to Philly with them, and they show up on Tom's lawn, and Tom's like, "Yeah, I'll handle this." And again, his wife and his daughter are upstairs, kind of cowering, and they see Tom turn into this other guy and just efficiently and brutally murder these two guys, Fogarty's henchmen.
Yeah.
And Ed Harris, this character, shoots him, and then Jack has to come to the rescue. Again, the after effects of violence. How does this affect Jack? And I love that moment between Tom and Jack after he shoots him, where he just has this. Tom has this really horrified look on his face, like, "What have I done?"
Yeah, I mean, it's a very realistic. I mean, not like I've ever killed anyone or anything like that, but it's from my understanding, it's a very real reaction to taking human life. Is just like revulsion and sadness and that kind of stuff.
But I think it's more of like he feels sad for what he's done, how this has hurt his son, his family. Like, I think killing comes easy to Tom/Joey, but now he sees that in his son.
Well, I was commenting more on Jack's, like,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Right.
like his, sort of loss of innocence, from being like a teenage kid. Now, suddenly you've taken human life, and it's a whole different ball game.
Right. Yeah. And at this point, I like the jig is up. Like, Tom has to come clean. He's already sort of like brushed off the idea he's in the witness protection program. He's been lying so long. I think he does believe the lie. Like, he doesn't think he really is Joey.
Yeah, because he even comments about how he's like, I killed Joey like out in the desert 20 years ago or whatever, and that thing, which I thought was another thing I thought was funny was where Maria Bello is like, I thought you were from Portland.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
You could see Tom Stahl being the kind of guy that would have been born in Portland, though.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And yeah, he's been this other guy so long that, like, this is all surprising even to him. But yeah, the jig is up. His wife said, "I saw you. I saw Joey. I didn't see my husband Tom." And that's another interest. Again, the sex scenes is character development. After she finds out that who he really is, they have that kind of almost brutal sex scene on the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's right.
Now she's like, "Who's this? This isn't my husband. The person I've been with for 20 years is not who I thought. And who's this guy?" And it's a very Cronenberg thing to do. Like, just in a sex scene, you learn so much about what characters or who they are, what they're thinking. It's a very, very interesting way to show character development. I really like those two scenes a lot.
Yeah, the two parallel scenes there for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so now I can say that Vigo is now Joey at this point. Because he goes back to, or maybe he's like an aggregate of both Joey and Tom.
That's interesting you say that, because I think in his head, he still convinced himself that he's Tom Stahl. Because he gets a call from his long-lost brother, Richie. And I think that's when you see him change, like little subtle things Viggo Mortensen does, like his accent changes a little bit. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And, so he drives to Philly from Indiana. How long would that take? We were debating while we were watching that.
I would say that's probably because Philly's not too far from here. I would say it's like an 8-hour drive, maybe.
That's interesting. Yeah. My girlfriend said the same thing. I was like, no, I think that would be like a lot further. Like,
Is it? No, you're thinking more like a drive out to like maybe like Chicago or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, from Indiana to Philly, I don't know. Like, it feels like it'd be like, I don't know. I was like, oh, it's got to be like 16 hours or something.
Nah, I don't think it's that far.
Okay. Well, in the movie it is.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you notice, because he says to the henchman, I've been driving for, he said something like 15 hours straight.
I was going to say that maybe he doesn't drive the way I drive or you drive, where we piss in bottles and never stop. You know what I mean? Like that's how. Like when we go on the road, we don't stop, man. We just keep driving, and if we got to pee in a Gatorade bottle. But
I've gotten pretty good at doing that, by the way.
Yeah. I didn't know. I guess I don't know. Yeah, once again, it's an alien world where it takes 15 straight hours of driving to get between those two cities.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And again, he shows up at this bar, and like it kind of does feel like it's actually Philly. Whoever did the location scouting for this did a really good job finding finding this place in Canada.
Yeah, because Canadian cities aren't as dirty as like Philly is. You know what I mean? Like, except for
Philly's
maybe
such a unique beast.
that one neighborhood in Vancouver is kind of Philly-esque, though. You know?
Oh God, over by the Rickshaw Theater.
Yeah, like that. That's like Philly, Baltimore, Detroit level seediness.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think that place out-seedies all those cities you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's pretty dark over there. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is when you really see that Vigo isn't Tom Stahl. You see he's Joey. Like, there's a different swagger to him. The way he talks is different. And we meet his brother, Richie, who played by the late, great William Hurt. In this movie for what, maybe 5 minutes? But man, does he steal the show.
Yeah, he's not, and he won an award for this, right? Didn't he? Was recognized for this film?
He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Okay.
He didn't win.
Yeah, powerful performance, kills it. You see the brotherhood between the two of them in their acting together, and that's just like, I mean, two great actors. I mean, Viggo Mortensen's like one of the best doing it, really.
Oh yeah. So much goes on in this scene. Like, he's the big brother. Joey's the little brother, and you can clearly see there's a lot of love between Richie and Joey. And watching this again, I was like, I wonder if the plan the whole time was for him to kill Joey, or if he was maybe feeling him out. Maybe Joey will come back. Maybe we can have this like life.
I think that it was trying to bring him back into the fold. I don't think the plan was ever to kill him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I couldn't tell either way, because maybe Richie isn't getting the answers he likes from Joey, and that's when he's like, all right, this has to be done.
Right. That was the sense I got from it. Richie
doesn't really have. Okay, that Harris character had a vendetta against Joey. Joey, at some point, attacked him with barbed wire, ripped his eye out. He's a mob guy. He's not going to forget that. Richie had to deal with the aftermath of Joey's actions. Like, he's this made guy. He's doing real well, but he talks about how there's a certain lack of respect. I'm still behind the 8 ball. Like, he's had to deal with the fallout from whatever Joey did. And I like too, like through this backstory, you learn like Joey was a monster.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't just some like kid who was a little wild. No, I got the feeling Joey was a killer for the mob.
Yeah, that's exactly, or some kind of heavy, just because of how comfortable he is with killing people and, and violence in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is quite different from the comic book. We can talk about that. But I love the scene between the two brothers. And again, talking about this alien world, the tone really shifts when Richie comes into the movie and gets almost comical.
Yeah, there's a little bit of humor in there, but it's still very heavy and dark, though,
Oh, for sure. But, you learn, again, Richie, he's in the movie for 5 minutes, but so much about this guy in those 5 minutes, He kind of gives off the air of a guy who just doesn't have the respect that he really wants, and he's overcompensating for it by, the big car, the big house, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. And even the way the violence goes, Richie decides his brother's got to go, and his henchmen fuck it up, and he goes, "How do you fuck that up?" It's funny.
That's kind of a staple in any kind of mafia related or mob related thing. Is a very sometimes subtle air of humor. I don't know, in a lot of these kind of crime films, there's like this funniness to some of the mob interactions.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would say The Sopranos is one of the funniest shows that was ever on TV.
Yeah, that's actually. I mean, you and I have probably seen that whole series multiple times. You know what I mean?
3 or 4 at least, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's rewatchable because of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, anyway, yeah, Joey, Tom is now fully Joey and is just running around killing everyone in the house. And I love the moment when he's staring at his brother face to face. Joey's got a gun in Richie's face, and everyone knows what has to happen. And he just says, "Jesus, Joey," and then Joey pulls the trigger. Jesus, Richie. I love that moment. No score, no dramatic music going on in the background. Just again, quick, brutal violence. And Richie goes down to the lake to cleanse himself of his. He's washing the blood off. But you notice he's wearing a cross.
Yeah.
And that interests me. I feel like that was clearly a choice. Cronenberg is a renowned atheist, existentialist. I just wonder what kind of comment he was making, like, with the cross dangling around Joey's neck as he cleanses himself of his sins, like almost like he's trying to wash Joey off of him.
Well, clearly it's a commentary on the hypocrisy of the Catholic Church. You know what I mean? 'Cause you got like a cross, which is a method of torture and murder. It's in and of itself, which has been co-opted by the Christians, the Catholics specifically, to be the symbol for their, physical manifestation of their God who sacrificed himself. And a big part of the Catholicism is, confession. And then you do penance, wash yourself in some holy water, and then you're absolved of all your sins. So it's meaningful that he's wearing the cross. He's down by the water. He's cleansing himself. And then he's able to return to the idyllic life of a non-sinner.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I really love the ending too, because, he drives home, his family's having dinner. He walks in the middle of dinner. There's not a word spoken at all in the end of the film. And it's left ambiguous. And I was curious about your take on the ending. Like, okay, who is he now? Is he Tom? Is he Joey? Does his family accept him? What's going to happen?
It's hard to read that last scene, but I think the ending that I came up in my head is that because of the scene of, confessional sort of stuff with the water and the cross, that he is absolving himself of the sins that he just committed as Joey. And that Tom never did any of those things because Tom isn't that kind of guy. And by going back to his family, sitting at the wholesome dinner table, is him returning as Tom back to that life.
Right. Yeah. And you see his daughter set a place for him at the table.
Yeah.
And his wife and him share a look. I think it's somewhat of an optimistic ending that, I got the same thing. Like, he's Tom. Even though Joey came back for a little while, he's still Tom. And the cleansing of himself, he's washing Joey away. Okay, back to being Tom now.
I mean, it's kind of an interesting discussion of, redemption, and being absolved of things, because oftentimes people find themselves in a situation in their own lives where they want forgiveness from somebody or they want to turn a page in their life. And I think, that moment or this movie in general is like a very interesting discussion of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's much more depth to the film than the comic book that I read. Like I said, when I read it, I was like, I don't see what Cronenberg sees in this except for a couple things, but he really took something and re-examined it and made it infinitely more interesting. even though the comic and the film are quite the same up until the third act, like I just thought Cronenberg really brought a lot to this film.
No, I agree, definitely.
Like in the comic book, Joe. First of all, in the comic book, it's the Italian mob from Brooklyn. It's not the Irish mob from Philly.
Yeah.
Interesting choice to have the Irish mob. You would think Boston would be a no-brainer, Irish mob, but they went with Philly for some reason. In the comic, Joey was not. He was a kid who him and his friend Richie, they're not brothers, they're friends. Him and his friend Richie rip off the mob because Richie's younger brother worked for the mob and they murdered him, and he had this vendetta against the mafia. So Joey isn't really this brutal killer. He's just a kid who's helping his friend out. And I thought that was interesting. And one of the big changes, Richie, the mob captures Richie and tortures him for 20 years. So if you remember, when you finally see Richie in the comic book, he has no eyes, he has no teeth, he has no arms, he has no legs. They've just been hacking away at this guy for 20 years. And I thought, okay, this is very Cronenberg-esque.
Yeah, that part. But that's not what they, he didn't go with that at all.
Yeah, which is very interesting. Another scene, there's a scene that was cut from this movie. I don't know if you've seen it on the DVD. There's a dream sequence between Joey and Ed Harris's character, Carl, where he dreams that he blows Carl Fogarty away in the diner. And you see him lying there with a huge wound in his stomach, and he's laughing, and then boom, cuts awake. He's awake. It was just a dream. It's very Cronenberg-esque, but he cut it, and it's just interesting. Maybe if Cronenberg made this film 10 years earlier, he'd have a very different take. Maybe that dream sequence stays in the film. Maybe the grotesque Richie from the comic books it makes it to the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But he was somewhere else in his career when he made this, and I think this is one of the more interesting eras of Cronenberg's filmmaking. He did this, and then he did Eastern Promises. He did two sort of gangster flicks back to back.
Both excellent, by the way. And Eastern Promises is one of my mother's favorite movies, by the way. And Viggo Mortensen is one of her favorite actors too. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, well, he's great in that.
Yeah. My mom, when I talked to her on the phone the other day, she's like, I just want to tell you that Eastern Promises is on Max now. And I'm like, oh, great, Ma. Did you watch it? It's like, yes, we were watching it last night, but I fell asleep. And I'm like, okay. My mom was like that. Viggo Mortensen's like her guy. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's great in that. He plays a gangster, but very, very, very different from the gangster in History of Violence.
Yeah. So what do you give this, man? What's your rate for this?
5. Cronenberg is my favorite filmmaker of all time, and I love all of his work. But this one particularly, this is top 3 Cronenberg films for me. I love this movie. It is odd and weird and funny and interesting. It's just like, I remember when it came out, a lot of people were like, what was Cronenberg doing? But this is a Cronenberg film through and through. His ideas, they shine through in every scene.
I also gave it a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this film. And also it has a lot of food for thought, things that you can, that jog certain thoughts in your brain that you reflect on afterwards. And that's like the sign of a 5 out of 5 for me.
Absolutely. And I'd be remiss. I'm sure I told you I wanted to mention this on the podcast. I went to the LA premiere for this movie in 2005.
Really? Damn.
Yeah. I was living in New York at the time, and Cronenberg was doing a special screening in my neighborhood in Astoria, Queens. And I missed it. Like I couldn't get tickets. And my wife at the time was like, oh, he's doing a similar thing in LA. You're going to be out in LA for ISIS practice. let's go to just go to that. And I just thought I was going to like, a special like screening of a movie. And my friend and I get there and everyone's in tuxedos and like, there's a red carpet. And we're like, holy shit, it's David Cronenberg. Holy shit, it's Viggo Mortensen. And we're like, dude, we're at the premiere of the movie. Like, and we got tickets for like the premiere of the movie.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was insane. And I sat 2 rows behind Cronenberg and Wes Craven.
Wow.
And and there was a big party afterwards. I was like, I don't even know if we're supposed to be here, but we were there.
That's awesome. That's so cool. It's a great story.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny. The guy who played the bully in this movie was like walking around with like only 2 buttons on his shirt buttons. Like, he just looked like such a piece of shit.
That's awesome. I'm gonna start cultivating that look of just buttoning 2 shirts, 2 buttons.
Yeah, but 2, but yeah, like your chest hair all poking out. I remember too, I was with my friend and someone came up to him and started talking to him like my friend was in the business. Like, I think he thought he was like a producer. It was very surreal, and it's the only time I've ever done anything like this. I approached David Cronenberg and said, I'm a big fan. Thank you.
That rules.
And it's the only time I've ever done that, I think. And the interaction probably meant absolutely nothing to him. It meant everything to me. I was actually standing next to him in the bathroom peeing, and I thought, this is a weird time to like try to talk to someone.
Did he have a nice piece on him or what?
I'll leave it up to your imagination if I had a peek or not. But I'll say this: if you know me, you know what I did. But yeah, it was such a cool, surreal experience to see this, and with the cast, and seeing David Cronenberg and Wes Craven sitting down eating dinner together at the after party. I don't know. It was like a fanboy, like dream. It was just completely surreal. And I stood next to William Hurt in line at the bar, and I was surprised by how fucking tall he was.
Yeah, he has that sense of being very tall.
Yeah, he's huge. And Ed Harris on the flip side, short.
Okay.
Not a tall guy.
I bet he could fucking kick your ass though.
Yeah, probably. Like he's
he
a
just
scary
looks like
looking
the kind
dude.
of guy. Like, yeah, he has that vibe. I think
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's a Jersey guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, great movie. Can't believe this was 18 years ago. This came out now.
I don't like to think about that.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
It's depressing. But
I think I would be down to do The Fly as another Cronenberg film.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest we do like Cronenberg movies that like you don't normally hear people talk about, like Cosmopolis or The Fly, like Spider, Fast Company. Did you ever see that one?
I haven't.
It's like some racing movie he made, like after he made like The Brood, right before he made Scanners. I think, I could be wrong, but it's a very strange movie for him to direct. Like if you see it now, you'll be like, what? But yeah, I think we got that. I think we got History of Violence covered.
Hell yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Bye now.
Just news who's a fucking hack. Says a bitch must be sleeping on the job like some lazy god slob. Don't give a shit about a little jack.